Merry Christmas, and to those that celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah to you. I'm glad to have you all here today. This is a special, well, every one of Talking with Tads are special, but I'm really excited about this series because you're going to be hearing firsthand what happened in Wisconsin and during their period of time as they were there. That's the Texas 8. Before we get into having them share their story, I want to say to all of you, this is a joyful time. This is a time to celebrate. We have the birth of Christ. We have a lot to be thankful for. I know it's been hard times. I know that we have gone through challenging times, not just with our illness, but this election is just going to drive us all crazy, is it not? I mean, you would think we would know by now which direction, that President Trump was going to be president again for 4 more years. But we still have to go through the challenges. We've got Texas stepping up to the plate, 17 others, at this point, 17 other states joining us in Texas on this lawsuit. Every minute, every hour, there's something new. So I always ask you to keep checking, keep praying for our state, our country, but praying for each other, for those who are struggling with some of the illnesses, struggling with joy in their family. But let's look at the things that have happened. Zoom, for example, I'm so thankful for that because we wouldn't be able to do this interview if we hadn't all gotten familiar with Zoom, or we wouldn't be able to share time with our family or our friends. So if you think of somebody in the next couple days, in the next couple weeks, I ask you, reach out to them, give them a call, share something, or text them or email them. Let them know that you care because it does mean a lot and they might need it at that moment. So thank you, and let's enjoy this season. Even though it's a little challenging, let's look at the positive and bring that joy to our family and to yours and all of those around you and our friends. So let's have a Merry Christmas. But now let's talk about something very exciting. You know, what happened before Thanksgiving, which of course was after the election. Kathaleen Wall, who is on here, is going to share her story, as we have also Kathy Hagler, and we have Karen Marshall. There were 8. It was the Texas 8, as I mentioned earlier. Kathleen's going to talk about how it all came about and how the 8 came together. And then we're going to hear stories. And actually today we're doing something new. We are actually going to see pictures and talk about the pictures that were taken. It's pretty exciting. So this is a little bit of new technology that we're incorporating. But Kathaleen, oh my gosh, I mean, it was wonderful to see all these postings. And I'm so excited to have you here and to share the story. Tell me, how did it begin? How did this all happen, and how did you get these 8 fantastic women together to work in Wisconsin?
Well, so good to be here today, Tony Ann, and be with other grassroots people because we're all so passionate. And that's how this came together. It was actually through prayer and passionate people that we got together. I think God just made a way that 8 of us got together. I know that Dr. Armstrong made the arrangements through the Wisconsin committee woman, but it's just amazing that we had 8 women willing to go out of state, spend however long it took, and do whatever it took to help support the recount effort. That is amazing. So we were there for 12 days, and we helped the observance, and we helped the lawyers so they could actually do their job better, so we'd have a great court case. But I think Kathy and Karen have some things to add too.
Well, and that is really so impressive. 8 days and right through Thanksgiving. So I want you guys to share.
12 days.
Sorry, 12 days. I apologize. That's really impressive. 12 days and through Thanksgiving. I mean, that's a lot of time to be away from your family. And especially during the holiday. I'm so thankful that you guys were there. So Kathy, why don't you start us off in sharing your story? When did you who contacted you? How did you make that decision? And then we'll go on over to Karen.
Well, good to be with you today, Tony Ann. And I have known Dr. Armstrong for quite some time, and I had contacted him about a week before. He knows that I do a lot of election contests and election integrity work. And I said, I can't stand sitting here. Send me somewhere. Give me something to do. Just where can I go? And I thought it would be Georgia. And then he said, no, they need you in Wisconsin. They got plenty of folks in Georgia. So I just said, put me in, coach. And he put me in together with Kathaleen. And I joined the team and got to go with everyone. And I was really glad to be able to go and use whatever skills the Lord's given me.
Wow, that is so cool. Just wonderful. And Karen, what about you? I see you're wearing your Wisconsin t-shirt to remind us all where you guys were those 12 days. How did it happen for you?
I feel like I was the one who like grabbed on as it was taking off. I was like the last addition, and I was so glad. Like Kathy, it was so great. I'm like, yes, let's do something to help. And so it was really spontaneous, and I contacted you and you said, oh, let me get you in contact with Dr. Armstrong because he's putting something together. And then he got me in touch with Kathaleen, and I jumped on board at the last minute. And it's like, okay, we don't know how long we're going. I don't know anybody going, and we're going someplace I've never been before, and I know nobody.
Besides that, it's easy.
Sure.
Piece of cake.
But I was really glad to jump on board. It was a leap of faith, and I'm glad I did. And it was a really interesting experience. And I would say the people we met up there too were super.
So when you say the people, like the Wisconsin, you guys were in Madison, right? Isn't that where you were located?
Yes.
And aren't the people there, I mean, I love their accent. I mean, they have great accent in Wisconsin, but they're so kind. I mean, so did you experience that with the Republicans you were probably working with, but how about the workers that were actually counting the ballots?
It was, you could definitely tell which ones were more like-minded than we were, I would say. So it kind of ran the gamut, and they kind of warmed up to us as it went along, if you guys would agree with me. But anybody, it was held in the Mananos Terrace, which was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, which was pretty cool. And anybody who was wearing not only a mask, but also a face shield didn't tend to be very friendly, because the Biden campaign issued double protection for anybody who had to enter the room with Republicans. So it's
and sometimes you sort of understood what position they were taking, because Karen had a tabulator that on her mask it said 666 on both sides. Pretty easy to tell.
Everybody else is like, oh man, and I'm like, I'll take that one.
Good for you. You guys did such a great job. Every day, Karen and Kathy were there at like 7:30 in the morning. They closed the place down. It was just amazing. It wouldn't have been as successful as it was without them.
So Kathleen, how many hours did they have to work? Or did they choose to work?
Well, they had 2 shifts. And like I was saying, Karen and Kathy usually worked both shifts. And so it would, what did that go from about 8 in the morning till about 8 or so in the evening, give or take a little bit?
We needed to be
in the morning till 9.
Yeah.
And it did go till 9 some days.
But it was just amazing. And it was stressful because you were just sitting there, and a lot of times the people that were doing the recount were dragging their feet. It got really, really boring and tense, and they would weaponize COVID and just try to make us give up. But, we just did the test. We stood strong, even though they were coming after us.
Well, God bless you guys for that one. Now, the picture you were just showing, is that like what you guys got to eat? And did you get to eat while you were at the window, or did you have to leave? What's the story on food? Because, we all get hungry.
Oh, there's a story on food, let me tell you. And what you just saw on the screen was Kathaleen being awesome, because she noticed how many hungry people there were around. So she took the big old rental tank that we had and would go and grab food every day. And so what you saw was the lead Trump campaign young man going, food. Because all the young people who were working there were really glad to see the food that Kathaleen brought. And that was in the kind of the holding area or the waiting room, the training room that we had. And so she would deliver snacks and goodies so that people wouldn't have to be observers hungry.
Yeah, the first day I got really worn out because we didn't really have a lot of food or water, and it was really stressful. And I just thought that little bit would help people stay. And I think it did help people get more comfortable and stay.
It did.
Were you going to say something, Kathy?
Oh, I was just going to say that first day we all pulled together with a lady that was ordering from Uber Eats, and the food never came. So we were starving by the time we got out that night. So every night, we were just desperate to get some dinner, and it was 9 o'clock and a lot of the restaurants had already closed or they weren't taking orders anymore. And we had a couple of quests at night trying to find a place where we could go find food for dinner. One night we went to 7 places before we found a place that would let us take some pizza back with us.
How about the imaginary Taco Bell?
Oh, and that really goes into the problem of being in such a liberal city. You just see all the businesses closing, and the problem with the Black Lives Matter and the just the ugliness of it. And it really made our fight even more because we just don't want to see that happen here.
So now let me ask the question about watching. I mean, how did it work? You have a picture, I think, of Kathy looking into through a plexiglass on where they were counting. And maybe, Kathy, you can explain the sign language you were talking about earlier, and so that we have an idea of like how that day started and what you did all day.
Right. So they would either bring out ballots for us to look at or the envelopes that the ballot by mails came in. And I think the photo that Karen has, we were looking at ballots at that point. Normally the tabulators would count them and then we'd go back through and review them and we'd be looking for certain things. So you can see 3 piles that my tabulator is doing on the other side of the plexiglass. And she's pulling from one pile, and I'm telling her once I've finished with that one, I would do this, and she could put that in the pile that's okay. And then if I said I'm objecting to that one, then she'd put it in a 3rd pile, and we'd keep it out separate for the attorneys to review. But some people would just say good, 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 or repeat themselves, okay, okay, okay. And we found out with the plexiglass and the mask, it was better just to find a way to use sign language and say, okay, that one's good, that one's good. So there I was reviewing envelopes. The ballot.
I wound up doing thumbs up.
You did thumbs up and down.
I did thumbs up.
Okay. Your wrist might get a little tired though doing that, right?
It was
so
tired.
How many did you guys end up having to put to the side for the attorneys to review? How many of those did you feel like out of 100? What was the number? Could you?
2, maybe.
Well, see,
out of 100.
Early in the week, there were more of them. And later in the week, we didn't do so many. But like on the first morning, I had 36.
Ooh.
But kind of it was funny because those were the last envelopes delivered to my station. So my people had counted a grand total of 36 envelopes by 2:30 in the afternoon.
They counted a total of 36?
Because they stopped bringing them once I made an objection.
It was so slow. So the objection process went like this. If I objected to it, then we had another, I'll call him a roaming attorney, that would look at it and they go, yeah, you need to object to that. And so then they take it up to the attorney table where they would decide if the Trump team was going to object or not. And if they did, then it would go to the board of canvassers. So if the board of canvassers said, yes, we'll accept that objection, it's a bad ballot, then they would have something called a drawdown, where they would turn all the ballot after they finished that whole town. Maybe there was 12 things that they objected to. And at the end of that town, they would turn all the ballots face down. They would pull out 12 at random. And if it was 11 Biden votes and 1 Trump vote, they would say -11 for Biden, -1 for Trump. But then as they saw fact patterns happening that we would object to, and they would not accept the objection at the Board of Canvassing, then our attorneys would make a blanket objection. So once they made a blanket objection to everything that's like this, then we didn't have to keep pulling those out of the pile anymore, because that was a standing objection for the rest of the recount. So as they kept making blanket objections, we had less to object to.
I'm sorry that I interrupted. I mean, this is so intriguing. So this was a statewide recount, and no, it was not?
No,
Dane County.
only
Oh,
two
just the
counties.
one county. But they had all the little towns within it's 2 counties, 1 or 2 counties?
Well, Milwaukee was doing their own county, but we were doing Madison that was in Dane County, and there were also other towns and villages in Dane County.
And so they would come in by towns, did I understand that? So then you can figure out which town and how they had to reduce or increase the vote. Interesting. Wow, that's amazing. And so you guys would start like at 7:30 in the morning, and Kathy, we saw that picture of you, and you guys would just be sitting there the whole time. And I mean, so say if you decided you needed to go use the restroom, or maybe you wanted to go get a drink of water, I mean, would someone come and take your place? Would there be rotators that come and take your place and you go off?
Kathleen wanted to answer that one.
Well, there were people waiting to do that, but the issue was that we had such a great team, honestly. Karen, Kathy, Suzette, Barbara, Valerie, Martha, all of them were so good, so dependable that they stayed a lot longer than comfortable. But there were people waiting to take their place when they went to the bathroom or got a drink of water, but they really tried not to do that. And what's really neat is the head attorney for Madison, Wisconsin, he called us his small army because he really depended on us. And he said he felt like Gideon in the Bible, that he was called to do something very big and he didn't feel worthy, and he felt like he needed a very small select group of people to help him, and we were a very big part of that. Even though there were about 2,500 people that were trying to help across the state, they just all didn't have Kathy's experience and dedication, and they all weren't there every day.
Obviously, I mean, 12 days, 14-hour days. I mean, my gosh, I mean, I'm so glad you made it back to Texas. I mean, that's so impressive that you did that. And so so we're going to continue this. We're going to kind of wrap up here in just a few minutes, but we're going to continue after all the lawsuits. Well, let me say it this way. We're going to continue another Zoom at another time after all the lawsuits are all settled, and get like some more in depth. But could each one of you share your overall experience and just how much it meant and how you would encourage others to help to go to others, well, right now to Georgia, or anytime a call is needed. So Kathleen, do you want to start us out and then we can move around?
Sure. I tell you, one of the most heart-touching parts for me, Karen got us a special tour on Thanksgiving Day of the Capitol, and it's this beautiful building that was built at the turn of the century, and the founders there in Wisconsin wanted to teach their citizens about being good citizens. So it was kind of like a cathedral to democracy.
Oh.
And they had pictures in the rotunda of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch of these beautiful glass mosaics. But the fourth mural in the glass mosaic was Lady Liberty, and she was guarding the ballot box, and it just was beautiful, and it just touched me because I thought, here they were, the founders right here are trying to teach their people the importance of fair elections and integrity for our whole government to function. But somewhere over the last 100 years, we've come to this. So that was the most touching thing to me.
Wow. That is a great story. I'm glad you got to experience that. And what about you, Karen? What was your takeaway?
that the news doesn't tell the whole story, and it can't fit in a sound bite. It was a lot of attention to detail, but we were able to make a difference, I think. And I'm confident in the various kinds of evidence that we were able to provide, or what we discovered, that also what we learned there. It's of value when we bring it back here to Texas, that we can help in the cause of election integrity here. And I just think that this experience was invaluable in the learning the process even more so. And we met some wonderful people up in Wisconsin now that we know, and it was just really interesting from beginning to end. And I would encourage anybody to do it. I don't know a single person who's sorry they went, not one iota. It was very gratifying, and it's especially to be able to do something in frustrating times. It was awesome.
Well, and thank you. And especially when you shared that you knew no one, you didn't know where you're going. Yeah, I mean, and you just walked in and you gave it up and said, here I am, and did such an awesome job. And then as Kathy wraps this up, if you could show maybe some of the pictures of the Texas 8, and the Army that they were so proud to have you there. But Kathy, give us, you wrap it up here to tell us about all of what your takeaway was, if you could, please.
I will tell you that the group of ladies that went were a strong group of faith, and we were praying women, and we had people praying for us back home, and the amount of faith and Christian love that was going on in that room was just amazing. And we knew that there was people praying for us because we could see God moving. And so, we would find one little objection, and it was like throwing a dart at a coat of armor or something. You didn't feel like it was very significant. We'd go to the table and come back and say, I got 1, I got 2, I got 5, and you're trying to find 20,000. But when you would find something that they could make a blanket objection for that would cover thousands and thousands of votes that might make the difference in this state, that might make the difference in who our president is, that was just something that you could say nothing but to God be the glory. Praise him for the way he's working and moving in what we were doing. And that may be a little more spiritual than you wanted to hear, but we really felt like God was moving mountains there.
Well, I mean, and you were, and you know what? They say, oh, well, there's just a few, irregularities, or a few illegals, or every single illegal one needs to be attacked. Every legal one needs to be counted. And you guys were great. And we are done. We are supported by the Lord. It all works together and giving us that strength to go forward. So I do hope we can come back, maybe bring a few others, because there are 8 of you, and I would love to have all 8 of you. I think we might be able to do that. This was put together so quickly, but what I want to do is I am looking to, when we put this out, is to share this video, and then below it on TED Talks to have where people can volunteer for Georgia. It makes a difference. You're sharing your stories that there's no question you made a difference. And I just thank you from me, but from all of us, for what you did and how you gave of your time for America. God bless you all for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.